Okay, let's go over the use of switch statements. So switch statements are another form of conditional, like an if or an if else or an if else if, right? So let's first write a typical scenario using an if statement, and then I'll show you the same scenario using a switch statement. You can get by with never learning a switch statement. You could get by with, in a sense, never learning an if statement and use one or the other. But there are cases where a switch statement is going to be beneficial, and there's cases where an if or if else is going to be beneficial. So let's assume we're making a little program that's going to read in a value from the user, a number, and then it's going to tell them what channel is displayed on their TV. So for instance, maybe if they type 1, they're going to watch CNN. If they type 2, they're going to watch Fox News. If they type 3, they're going to choose CBS. Okay, so you get it. So we'll declare a variable for the user channel, right? That's what they're going to type in. And then we will ask the user to enter their channel. So we'll do systemout.println enter channel number, right? And then we'll read that in. We'll read that in from the user by using our scanner, right? So I named it in, so we'll assign into user channel. We'll say in.next int because they're typing in a number. Okay, so if I were going to use an if statement, let's say there were 3 channels, CNN, Fox, and CBS. Okay, so I could say if user channel equals with a double equals, right? 1, then we'll print out system.out.println. We'll print out you are watching CNN, right? And then I'll say, else if user channel equals 2, right? I'll say you are println you are watching Fox News, right? And then else if user channel equals 3, right? System.out.println you are watching, NBC, for instance. Okay, and then else println that is not a valid channel. Okay, and this program would work fine, right? They'll type in a number, it'll go through my if statement and tell them what channel they're watching. So if I say enter channel number and I say 2, it says you're watching Fox News. If I type, channel number 1, it says you're watching CNN. And if I type an arbitrary number like 6, it says that's not a valid channel. Okay, and you could live with this. This is good use of an if statement. Now let's do the same thing with a switch statement. So I'm going to actually just comment out this if statement. And I'm going to still ask the user for a number. But now I'm going to implement this same code, right, with a switch statement. The way a switch statement works is you type switch, right? And then you put the variable you're going to switch on. So in this case, user channel, right? And now you put your open brackets, right? And then it will add your close brackets. So my switch statement is now between here and here, right? This bracket under that. This one is for the main, and then this one is for my class, right? So my switch statement looks like this. Now, for each thing you want to check, you write the keyword case, and then you choose the value. So I want to see if user channel equals 1. So I'm going to say case 1. And if it's case 1, it's going to do what's on the next line here, right? So I could say system.out.println you are watching CNN, right? And then I have to say, okay, we're done this specific case, and I put the word break in there. Now I do the second thing I'm looking for, case 2, right? And I do system.out.println you are watching Fox News. And again, I then tell it that I'm done this case where user channel equals 2 by putting break. And then finally, I would say case 3, right? And I'd say system.out.println, you are watching NBC. Okay, and then I break. Oops, let's put this on the next line. Not needed, but it indents better. Break, okay? And now how do I handle my final else? The way you handle your final else is you put a default case, right? And your default case is going to be, system.out.println. That is not a valid channel, right? And you really don't need a break on the default line, right? Because it's just going to drop through to the bottom, right? So what is this switch statement? This switch statement says I want to see when user channel equals a 1, when user channel equals a 2, when user channel equals a 3, or when user channel doesn't equal any of the ones above it, right? And it's going to drop through to the default. So this code right here that I just wrote is identical to this code, except we're using a different conditional construct. So let's run this code, right? Enter channel number, and I put in 2, and it says you're watching Fox News because it came into here. This case 2 basically says, does user channel equal 2? Now, there's some advantages to switch statements. Let's say on your TV, channel 1 and channel 1001 was both CNN, right? Because sometimes they have HD channels, some and regular. So if I were going to do it in the if statement, right, I would have to come up here, and I know it's commented out, but I want to show you the code. I would have to say if user channel equals 1 or user channel equals 1001, right? Then do this, right? So, and I could do that, and then I could say else if user channel equals 2 or user channel equals 1002. Okay, but that gets a little cumbersome. Now, here's one of the benefits for a switch statement. So I could say case 1 there, and then right under it, I could say case 101. Now, what does this do? This says if user channel equals 1, or if user channel equals 1001, and I could keep loading case statements up, it's going to come into here until it hits a break. Okay, and then I could do the same for 2, right? I could do under case 2, I could say case 1002. I could even do, what if there was another channel all the way up there, 3002, right, to watch Fox News, right? And then same for this, case 3, I could do case 103, right? So this is setting up ORs. It's saying if user channel equals 2 or 1002 or 3002, it's going to come in and do as many lines as I want here, right? I could put another one, system.out.println, enjoy the news, right? And it's going to perform all the lines until it hits a break. Once it hits the break, it's going to drop through to the end of the switch statement, right? So this is a pretty easy way, instead of building, if this equals this, or this equals this, or this equals this, you can load up your cases in your switch. So now let's run this code. If I type a 2, a 1002, or a 3002, it's going to do the Fox News, right? So I run this, and let's put, 1002, right? You're watching Fox News, enjoy the news, right? So it went into that case. Likewise, if I put a 2, it's going to do the same thing, right? If I put another number, 33, it's going to drop to the default case at the bottom. Now, the one thing you have to be careful with switch statements, the number one thing people forget to do, they forget to put the break here. Now, let's say I don't put that break on this line. I forget it. Here's what's going to happen. If I type a 1 or 1001 in, it's going to come and execute this line, you're watching CNN. But then, since there's no break, it's just going to drop right through, right, and continue on. So let's take this out. Let's take out that break, right? So case 1000. So I'm going to type a 1 in now. So I type a 1 in, right? And it says, let's watch what it does. It came to this line and said, you are watching CNN, right? But there was no break. So it dropped through to the next executable line, which is this one. And it printed it out. You're watching Fox News. And then it dropped through to here. But again, there was no break. And then finally it hit a break, which means go to the end of the switch statement. So the number one thing, do not forget your breaks in between the different cases of this, okay? Now, switch statements can handle any of the native types. So I can put an int variable here, I can put a double, I can put a float, I can put a char. In the early versions of Java, you were not able to put a string here, right? You couldn't put a string. But now, actually, you can put strings. So how is this beneficial? Let's make some changes to our code now. Let's say that the user was going to type in a string for user channel, right? So instead of reading in user channel as a next int, I'm going to read it in as a next line, okay? So I don't know, maybe they're going to type, you know, CNN, and then I'm going to say you're watching CNN or whatever. Okay, so now for my case statements, let's just have one for each now that you understand you can have more than one, right? Okay, for my case statement, I can actually put, right, case CNN, right? And then for this one, I can put, because user channel is now a string, right? So case this, I can put Fox, right? And for case 3, I could put NBC, right? So now it's going to compare whether user channel equals CNN. Now, so let's run this. So if I type CNN, it says you're watching CNN. And I understand this is a silly use of the program. I'm typing CNN and it's telling me CNN. But I just want to illustrate that what you switch on can be a string. Now let's think about this for a second. This is a huge advantage because if I used conditionals like an if statement, I can no longer use equals equals for strings, right? I would have to say up here if user channel dot equals CNN, right? I would have to use dot equals. So now let's say I wanted to handle lowercase, right? I could say equals CNN or equals CNN, right? Or I could actually do user channel to lowercase equals it. So using strings in if statements may be a little cumbersome, whereas here I could just do this, right? And I could check for upper or lower case. Now again, I could accomplish the same thing up there with using to lower or to upper, but so in any case, the switch statement works with variable types, all native types, including strings.